Okay, so I want to try something new here. I want to do a lost character tier list. So as you can see here, as I scroll down and back up, we have oh crap, it was 3, 6, 8 times 5, 41 characters, ranking them all from S tier to complete trash and all the way in between. So the way this is going to work is we'll go through each character and I will kind of try and give an introduction of each character and then I will give my preliminary thoughts of each character and then Burke, my friend, will join in after I've done the introduction and then you'll tell me if you agree with my thoughts or disagree with my thoughts and we'll kind of come to a consensus on what tier they should go in. How do
All
you
right,
feel
yeah.
about that, Burke? You're all
Oh,
right?
yeah, that sounds, yeah.
Yeah.
That actually sounds exactly the way it should be.
Yeah, I will definitely kind of I'll put them in a tier and I want you to speak up and say your thoughts. Not you don't have to agree with me every time. If you feel the same, then you can say that or if you feel differently, you definitely speak up and say, "Oh, they should go in a different tier." Or if I've forgotten something, you should also speak up.
Yeah, yeah.
So, without further ado, let's start on a character that we both feel exactly the same on, which is Ana Lucia. And let's just start out by putting her in complete trash.
I
So,
don't remember exactly all the stuff that happened to her. I just remember I was very happy when she was out of the show.
so another thing, we will talk about what seasons they mostly appear in, and Ana Lucia, excuse me, is a big character in season 2. So, if we can just briefly go through the seasons here. The first season is the first season. Season 2 is The Hatch. Season
Ah,
3
yes.
is The Others. Season 4 is The Freighter with uh trying to get off the island. And
Yeah.
then season 5 is they go back in time to 1977, some of them. And then season 6 is the alternate timeline.
What do they call it? Like Flash Sideways?
Yeah, the Flash Sideways. So Ana
Yeah.
Lucia is in the Hatch season, and that's where they find the people in the back of the plane. So that's Ana Lucia and Bernard and a couple others. So she's like the leader of the back of the plane people, basically. And, it's Michelle Rodriguez, so she kind of sucks.
Yeah. It sounds rude, but like, I don't know if I've really liked her in anything she's been in.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like since then, she's been in the Fast and Furious stuff, and she's pretty all right there. That's definitely her best role. But almost
Yeah.
anything else she's been in, she's been pretty bad.
I feel like she just gets typecasted as like a specific kind of character
Oh yeah,
where she's like a big hard ass and has a huge chip on her shoulder.
yep. And it's definitely the same in this, and they kind of acknowledge it with a line that she has. She's just like, you know, people just don't seem to like me for whatever
Yeah.
reason. And it's I feel like the writers kind of gave a wink and a nod to no one likes no one likes this character.
Yeah. Oh
But
yeah, and she's a cop, so
oh oh yeah, and we need to talk about her her backstory where she is pregnant, she gets shot by a dude, and then she just chooses to murder that dude in cold blood for no reason.
that was kind of amazing. She just kind of like walks up and shoots him,
It's really
and,
bad.
and I'm like, holy shit.
And it's kind of a big theme of a lot of the characters in this show where they do a really bad job of making bad characters. They try to be like, oh, this character is like a real life character who has flaws and that sort of thing, but
Yeah.
they're just annoying. We will talk about this in a lot of characters in the show, but they're just annoying. They don't have a fatal flaw that's interesting. They're just bad.
No, they flip over like when they're bad, they're really bad, and when they're good, they just do a good thing. It's never like there's no gray area with them. Like she shoots that guy because she's mad at him, and then she does something good later on, and it's just like, why did she do that? I don't know. Just so the audience doesn't completely hate her.
Yeah, and yeah, they try to redeem her, but she is basically irredeemable.
I don't remember how she dies.
She dies by getting shot by Michael.
That might help him later in this ranking.
Yeah, that's oh, we will do a lot of cross-referencing of characters throughout the course of this because obviously the interactiveness of all the characters in this show are a big deal, so we will
Yeah,
definitely do that. So, how do you feel about this ranking of Ana Lucia in complete trash tier?
that's perfect. Yeah, there's where she belongs. Like even ignoring all the stuff with her character, it's just like she's just does not that relevant really. She's relevant for that season, and I'll say like outside of like a few of the back of the plane people, a lot of them are just kind of feel like they're just there to fill in time. Like I never really felt like she was really that important. When she left the show, it's just kind of like, all right, well, that's over with, I guess.
Yeah, and like a lot of characters, she has a cameo in the later seasons, but she doesn't really have a huge impact, I would say.
Yeah, yeah. That's another whole thing with the show, where it's just like a character leaves the show and then they come back, and it's like, okay, I mean, I know what happens to them, so I'm not that invested.
Yeah, agreed. I feel like this is a good spot for her, and yeah, not really a whole lot of things to say. She's just kind of bad,
Yeah, yeah,
and thankfully she's not around for long, because the writers knew that she was bad, so they had to get her out of there.
yeah, yeah. One of the good things they did.
All right, we are doing basically a complete 180, going from a really bad character to what I think is a really good character in Ben Linus.
Oh man,
So
Ben Linus.
obviously Ben Linus is one of the like main characters throughout the whole show. He shows up first in season 2 and is around throughout the rest of the show. And yeah, there are like a bunch of episodes focused around him. Eventually, it's revealed that he's basically the leader of the others. And then, yeah, it goes from there of him being like, you never really. They go back and forth in an interesting way of painting him as a bad guy and kind of painting him as a good guy.
Yeah,
And a big story arc later is like him battling Charles Widmore over control of the island. And a really interesting thing is throughout the whole show, both Ben Linus and Charles Widmore are like, oh, the other guy wants to use the island for evil. We can't let him do that. But they both
yeah.
say that. And at no point in the show do they really like tell you the true intentions of either of them. It's so weird.
Ben Linus, he he might be one of like the few characters on the show that feels completely fleshed out,
Oh yeah.
where you're never really entirely sure like where he stands on anything.
Yeah, and what his motivations are either.
Yeah, and even like the other characters, like when they eventually find out that he's untrustworthy, he still finds ways to get what he wants out of people, even when they know he's just gonna fuck him over.
Yeah, he is definitely one of the few like bad characters in this show. Like we just talked about like Ana Lucia being kind of shitty. Ben Linus is shitty in a good way though.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
a thing that I really love about Ben Linus is a lot of his backstory episodes are some of the better backstory episodes in the whole show.
Oh, for sure.
Like
Like I think
de-
his episodes are, for the most part, like better than most of the characters.
yeah, definitely one of the highlights is at the end of season 3 they give you the backstory of how he came to the island and how he became the leader of the others, and basically how he murdered the entire what the Dharma Corporation or whatever it's called to like give control of the island to the others and like take the island for himself, and it's really fascinating.
Oh, and it's completely ruthless.
And like he kills his dad who sucks, which is funny.
Oh yeah,
And then
yeah. He gets a lot of points for that one.
yeah, and just constantly through the show they're going back and forth and between like him being like super evil and him being like moderately evil, which I think is really interesting.
Well, I think it's interesting that at the very end of the show, he completely goes the opposite direction, where he's like now he's like a protector of Dylan. It's like, oh yeah, he went from murdering everyone in cold blood to being
It's
immortal?
yeah, and it's just
Question.
like I'm not gonna be a good guy, but at least I'll just be like a neutral guy, not a bad guy. So
Yeah.
yeah, and it's really interesting. It's one of the like stories coming out of this show is that his character was originally supposed to be like just kind of like a backstory character, just like a rando. But Michael Emerson, the guy who plays him, was so good that the writers were just like, oh, we have to keep him around and make him the leader of the others because he is just so good. And
Oh yeah.
obviously,
Like
Michael Emerson like is amazing, and it's really fortuitous that they found him to be
yeah.
Ben
I try to
Linus.
think about it like what the show would be without him, and I'm like,
It would be
man, like
really bad.
even later on when like the show dips hard, like he still lifts the show up whenever he's around
Yeah,
because he's just like so dynamic as a character.
and everyone's interactions with him are really interesting.
Yeah.
So
I
I
think he's easy tier S.
yeah, I was also about to say he definitely goes in S tier.
Are we just going like down the list like
What?
are we just gonna go down like specific order on the list of characters or
It's a little weird because like Bernard and Rose aren't like together. It's alphabetical, so
yeah.
I hmm,
That's what I mean, because like some of these characters kind of feel like they should go back like one should go after the other one.
the only one that I feel super strongly about is putting Sun, ranking Sun right after Jin, but any of the
Yeah.
other ones is because like Sun and Jin are a package deal. Anyone else is
Oh
just like
yeah.
I think they can get ranked on their own.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, Bernard, he is also one of the back of the plane people. He's Rose's wife, and I think he definitely goes to the who cares tier because
Yeah, I'm
he's
like
definitely worse than Rose. That's for sure.
he is. He doesn't really do a lot.
Yeah, and like he has that one episode where it's like their backstory where he tries to take Rose to a holistic healer to cure her cancer, and it's not a very exciting episode, that's for sure.
No, it's like even thinking about like I'm like thinking about what to say about him and I'm like I don't know.
Yeah,
Like
he doesn't do anything.
he's just kind of there. He's fine. Like I don't hate him, but he's definitely like, yeah, well, here's Bernard. He's
Yep,
kind of hanging out.
he makes it to the end of the show for no real reason.
He's just gonna hang out with Rose on the island.
Yeah, and that's what they do. I don't feel like there's a whole lot to say about him.
No, no, I think who cares? 100% where he belongs.
Yeah. Okay, so Boone. Boone is interesting because we'll get to Shannon eventually. Shannon is obviously going in complete trash tier. Boone is slightly better than Shannon, but how much better is he really?
Yeah,
It's
Boone's tough because he's saddled like he's just kind of saddled with a really terrible character. But even then, like he like I think his appearance like makes you like, oh, he's a completely nothing character, but he has a little bit more to offer than that. But it's still not that much more.
yeah, and also we're going to talk about the backstories a lot, and we have already. The first Boone and Shannon backstory is one of the worst episodes of this entire show.
Yeah, it's pretty bad.
And like you heard my reaction where eventually they end up having sex and it's just the worst thing ever. Like why did the writers of the show think that was like a good idea? It's really terrible.
I forgot that happened. I like blocked it from my
It's
mind.
it's it's awful. Those first some of those first season episodes, they were really rough.
Wait, so what is their relationship? They're like step brothers or
Yeah,
something?
their stepbrother and stepsister. So
Yeah,
some
okay.
people were obviously really into that, but I don't
You
think
know,
either of us were.
anime folk in the back, stand of.
So
Yeah, he's
I
he's
think for now we could put him in complete trash, but we might do a re-rank of him and rank him up to bad, depending on where how many characters are going in complete trash.
Yeah,
Because there's going to be a
I'm
lot.
leaning towards bad. Like,
Yeah, I okay. Let's put him in bad for now, and maybe maybe change our mind
I kind
later.
of like the way he dies.
Yes, he that episode is actually pretty decent. That was one of the better
That's
ones.
a good Jack moment.
Yeah, one of the few. All right. Next up, Charlie, and it's another easy one of putting him in complete trash. Now, we are. I would like to put him in complete trash. A lot of people might think that Charlie is my least favorite character in Lost. I don't think that's true. Kind of by a long shot, surprisingly.
I actually don't hate Charlie. That well, he's extremely annoying.
Yeah, it's like a big part of the show is the casting, and it's so weird. Some of the casting in this show is amazing, and some of the casting in this show is really, really bad. And I think Dominic Monaghan is a pretty bad fit for the show.
Yeah, it is funny. Like some of the actors like really great performances, and then they kind of just disappear after Lost.
Yeah, and nothing. No, there's nothing really going on with Charlie all that, or nothing interesting, I should say, because like he
No,
he battles his drug addiction in the first 2 or 3 seasons, and there's a whole backstory with his band that none of that stuff is very good.
I kind of like I kind of like his middle arc where like once he kind of recovers and
Yeah,
that part is good. The problem with Charlie is that he had that really good bit where he recovers and he starts getting premonitions of his death, and then it feels like the writers just completely lost steam on what to do with his character. Like that's all they had. Where it's just like, okay, he's recovered now. There's something going on, and it's like, oh, we don't know what else to do with him.
yeah, I would agree with that.
And it's kind of like that's kind of why I wouldn't put him complete trash because I'm like, there's a part of his character arc that I actually like,
So you would put him in bad, but before complete trash.
which is kind of funny because I remember complaining a lot about Charlie.
Yeah, this is the first one where I think we disagree because it is definitely one that we can come back to. But those first like 2 seasons of Charlie are all pretty bad, and
They
like
are,
like
they are
none
really bad.
none of his backs, but like his backstories are more uninteresting than bad.
Yeah, it's just very like honestly, it's a very cliche. Like his entire backstory, it's just like he's in a one hit wonder rock band. He has a drug addiction, and that's pretty much it.
Yeah, and like he dies in season 4, where he goes to like the underwater like recon base, or like the communications bunker or whatever.
Yeah, he's trying to
And
communicate or
yeah,
something.
he tells them like about Penny, about the freighter and stuff, and then he just kind of kills himself by locking him in the room that gets filled with water, which is
Yeah,
kind of dumb.
he does a handprint. I forgot what that was. Like I remember it being somewhat relevant.
He has his hand says "not Penny's boat" on it.
Oh yeah. Uh, okay. I'm
And
like you're starting to pull me back towards complete trash.
yeah, it's those and you've also forgotten his third season arc where he's like trying to protect Claire and doing like an awful
Oh,
job of it.
oh,
Like,
okay. You know what?
yeah,
All right,
that
maybe he
stuff
stays
is
here.
is really, really bad. And he's like struggling with his drugs, and Locke punches him in the face.
Yeah,
Yeah, that
I like when he found the drugs inside like
the Mother Mary
the
statue.
Mother Mary statue.
Yeah, he definitely has his ups and downs, but it's not all bad. A lot of people would say like Charlie is like the worst character, but like I said, I wouldn't quite go there.
Yeah.
All right, next up is Charlotte. So there in season 4, 4 people come from the freighter onto the island. It's Charlotte, it's Faraday, it is where is he?
Uh,
Um where are they?
I'm trying to remember. I forgot who she was.
It's uh
Oh, next to
Frank,
Locke.
Frank, and that's Juliet. Where's
Oh wait, no,
Miles?
never mind. That's
Yeah,
another.
Miles. Yeah.
Yeah, Miles.
So Charlotte is definitely the least consequential of those four characters. Nothing goes on with her. I think she is firmly in the who cares tier.
I don't even remember. I literally don't remember what happens to her or anything.
She makes it to the fifth season and is the first one of the freighter crew to die because the like tremors or like the flashbacks from being teleported in time are too much for her, and she just kind of dies for no reason.
Oh, she gets like nosebleeds or something.
Yeah, yeah, she's definitely the least consequential of all that stuff.
Yeah, I think.
There's not
Yeah, who
really,
cares?
and like she doesn't, she barely gets any screen time. Like nothing happens with her. There isn't a lot to talk about here.
Yeah, for me, who cares is a category of like literally people I don't remember,
Yeah,
and I can't think anything to say about them. I'm like, all right,
the who cares tier is definitely an important tier in Lost.
this is where I think is like kind of brilliant that you put that category in because we might have we might need to make more space for who cares.
Because like I was thinking about it before, because I originally had okay and who cares together, but then as like one tier, but then I was like, there are a lot of people on this list that I don't even care about. Like I don't even have the mental capacity to rank. So it needs its own category of people that don't matter.
Yeah, I would say like okay is a category for who cares kind of characters who have like an important part to do in the show. Like
Yes, who at least
they
do
they form
something.
they have something to do in the show that's important, but their characters are just like they're basically just like they're just like a bridge to get
Yeah,
from point A to point B.
there's a difference between whatever and who cares. Those are two
Yeah.
different things.
Speaking of that bridge,
That's yeah, this is gonna be a tough one because Jack's dad, he definitely doesn't do anything, but he is like a definitely also a recurring character of the show.
oh, he's like insanely important for like Jack's arc.
Yeah, and it's so weird. They try and like paint Jack's dad as the focal point of like the whole interconnectedness of the characters. So basically everyone has a run-in with Jack's dad and it's just like, hey, that's Jack's dad. And that's it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, it's so tough because like I don't really care about him that much, but
No, he doesn't do
he
anything.
he yeah, he really is just like a bridge like for Jack. I mean he pops up at the very end of the show and gives a little speech to Jack.
Yeah, and he's like one of the forms of the man in black or whatever. And
Yeah.
yeah, he's like in purgatory and yeah.
Yeah, it's also weird because he's pretty much dead. He's like dead the entire time on the show,
Yes.
and he just gets build up as it goes on.
Yeah, and that's kind of interesting how he's dead the whole time but is still a character.
Yeah, I mean, it's like Citizen Kane. It's like he's dead at the beginning of the movie, and you find out all afterwards.
Yeah, Jack is the Citizen Kane of Lost.
He's the Citizen Kane of Lost. Exactly. All right, so S tier, right?
How about we just put him in okay? How do you
I think
feel
that's
about
good.
that?
Yeah, it's like like what I was saying. Like I don't care about him, but he's kind of important, at least for Jack anyway.
Okay. And Claire, we have another easy ranking of going in the complete trash tier.
Yeah,
Claire is no good. Like
I'm like
one of the big arcs in the beginning of the show is that she's pregnant and has a baby, and like Erin is a big deal in the show basically.
yeah. I would say for me, she started off as being bad, and then when she went like
Crazy.
crazy,
Yeah.
I was just like, all right, I'm done. I'm done with you.
Yeah. And all
Because she
this
goes crazy like in a dumb way. She's like a caricature.
yeah, and like the later season episodes with her are really bad, but also if I can remind you of the really bad season 2 episode where she gets kidnapped by the others,
Oh
and
yes.
like that is definitely one of the low points of season 2 where I really didn't like it was
Hey,
the
remember
whole
when Charlie
flash.
shoots that guy in cold blood?
Oh right, what's his name? Ethan. Ethan.
Ethan, he just like murders him.
I had completely forgotten about Ethan until you mentioned him.
I remember his name. I remember he killed a guy. Yeah, yeah. She's Claire's. everything about it. Like when she goes crazy, like her hair, like the bad job on the makeup on like, oh her her hair is just an entirely different character now.
And she's just annoying and shrill the whole time, like the whole
Yeah,
show. So it's
yeah, and
really
then
bad.
like I feel like the direction they gave the actress for like, oh, here's how you're not crazy. I'm just like, oh my god, can we like do something, anything else?
Yeah, she is not good at all.
Yeah, okay, yeah, I that's where yeah,
You're fine with
complete
complete
trash.
trash, and do you have anything else to add?
Not really. I also forgot how what happens to her at the end.
Uh, what? She gets on the plane with everyone else, right?
Oh, yeah, that sounds right. Yeah, she doesn't die.
Yeah. So yeah, she doesn't really get much of any resolution, even though you wonder if they're gonna take her on the plane or not, because she's crazy.
Yeah. I mean, there's like, oh yeah, there's like the whole Flash Sideways stuff with her too, where like the baby gets off the island, that's when she goes crazy.
I I really thought at the in the first season that like the baby was gonna be the whole key of the show.
That's what I thought too, to be honest. I was like, oh, it's like significant that this baby was born on this stupid
Yeah,
island.
because like they make a whole deal about babies can't be born on the island. The conception rate is really high, but the birth rate is zero. So it's just like what's going on with the island. This baby is gonna become like
It's like Children of the Man. It's
yeah, it's
like
gonna become
this
like
baby is gonna save society, save the world.
this baby is the Jesus of this island somehow.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, they don't do anything with Aaron besides the whole like Kate saga. But we will get to that when we get to Kate.
Yeah.
All right, Faraday. He is one of the freighter people, and he is a freighter man who actually does stuff.
I I'm a fan.
Yeah.
I
So
think he has a really interesting arc the entire show.
yeah, and a lot is going on with him because the way he dies is he gets shot by his mother in 1977 when she is young. So that's pretty interesting.
Yeah, I thought he was gonna make it through. Actually, no, you kind of figure out a point he's gonna die, but like the way he dies is cold lunch. Like, holy shit.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting. And like, yeah, when he gets to the island, he is like the main guy who does stuff. He does like a lot of tests on the island and like tells he's basically the exposition dump of just like, oh, I've been studying the island for a while. Like time behaves weird and like he is trying to like tell everyone else like what's going on with that stuff. And I think that's pretty interesting.
I think like him and the character next to him, like they're interesting in that they really add like a like almost like a sci-fi aspect to the show,
Yes, definitely.
and he should be a bad character because he just exists. It almost feels like he exists to give exposition and to like explain to the audience everything. But his like arc is so interesting, and it goes in so many different places that it's just the fact that he's not just like a one note character. It's where he's just like he's one of the characters in the show where I'm like, okay, yeah, he's very important to the show, and I really enjoy his entire arc.
Yeah, I think I'm all right with putting him in good tier.
Yeah, yeah, I think he's. I don't think he's like he's not Ben Linus. So
No,
he's
yeah,
good.
yeah. S tier is definitely a little too generous to that, but
Yeah,
all right, all right. Moving on. This this is the easiest decision we can make. Desmond goes in the S tier. Like
I might.
you
I'm
might
like thinking this.
disagree.
No, no, I'm just thinking like is Desmond my favorite character in the show?
He's definitely mine, and
Like,
we talked about the good backstory of Ben. Without question, my favorite episodes in this show are the Desmond episodes. They are so good.
oh yeah, they're like
Like,
some.
obviously, Lost is a very like divisive show, but if you have watched Lost and you don't like Desmond, then I don't even know what to say because it is like Desmond is the one true good thing that you can take away from Lost.
Yeah, the thing like the Desmond episodes are so interesting because like I feel like the writers just have so much to work with that all the Desmond episodes they kind of feel they have like this little bit of a Twilight Zone feel where you're like I'm not exactly sure what's gonna happen in this Desmond episode. Anything's on the table, and some of them just go in some really crazy directions.
Yeah, and a thing which you don't always get in Lost, things actually happen in the Desmond episodes.
Oh, a lot happens. Like every Desmond episode, it's like, wow, a lot happened in this episode. There's
And
always like these lost episodes where like I think two things happened that episode, and that's kind of it.
yeah, and you definitely wonder why couldn't they make every episode like this with the Desmond episodes? You compare it to other ones where just absolutely nothing happens. It's like, okay, fine. It's
Yeah,
so inconsistent.
it's yeah. I feel like I can't really think of much like bad things about Desmond. Maybe at times I got tired of like the whole Penny part.
Yeah, we'll get to Penny, but yeah, the whole everything about Desmond himself, his character, is just so amazing.
Desmond is so good that not even Penny can drag him out of S tier.
Yeah, and just yeah, the whole thing going on with like his like magnetic resonance and his time traveling abilities, and the fact they made this really smart idea of making him the focal point of the final season. It's all really well done.
Yeah, I think they understood like everyone loves Desmond. Desmond's a great character. We should probably make him a key aspect of
Yeah,
this last
and
season.
and an important thing, they capitalized on that and made it good. Al- There's
Yeah.
a lot
Oh
of
yeah.
wasted potential in a lot of these lost characters. We will get to that fairly shortly.
Yeah.
That is not happening with Desmond.
There's some characters who I felt were S tier, and then I feel like they fall out of S tier
There,
later on.
we will get there very shortly, but there are a lot of characters who are like S tier in principle, but then as you go along, the writers kind of let that character down and didn't do
Yeah.
enough with them, and they maybe won't be an S tier, even though they should be. There are two characters I feel fall into that archetype, and we will get there.
Oh yeah. I wonder if we agree on the two characters. We'll
Yeah,
see.
we'll have to find out. But yeah, Desmond, excellent, just really well done. Like
Yeah.
no complaints whatsoever.
And he has like such a great catchphrase. Like,
Yeah, and yeah, good actor as well.
yeah. And
From
now,
very consequential to not very consequential, we have arrived at Mr. Echo.
oh my god.
Season 2, baby. Nothing went on in season 2, huh?
No, it's kind of funny because Mr. Echoes, he's like a key player in season two, and I'm like, man, season two really they kind of like suck.
Yeah, season 2 is the worst season. Mr. Echo does nothing. I'm sorry to tell you, he belongs in the who cares tier. The
Did he?
backstory with the Nigerian gun priests are interesting, but not still. Nothing happens with
I
the
love the
Nigerian gun
Nigerian
priest.
gun priest. Is Yep. Can we have the Nigerian gun priest as like S tier
Yes, in our hearts.
in ours?
Him, Nigerian gun priest, and Arst, secret S
Our,
tier.
I'm like, does he ever even does he end up being important at all?
No,
I feel like
he
no, he
dies to the
dies.
smoke monster for no reason, and then
Uh,
he gives his stick to Locke, and that gives him a revelation of what to do with the island. But other than that, there's nothing.
yeah. Sorry, Mr. Echo.
Yeah, we do like you, but the writers let you down.
Yeah. And now,
All right, Faraday's mom, Eloise. So this is weird because like obviously she's not a huge part of the show, but her character is like really interesting.
yeah. I was gonna say like, yeah, she's not in that much,
Yeah,
but
she's
she does some
definitely
pretty crazy stuff.
she's definitely like the catalyst for like all the time travel stuff and like the holistic and metaphysical properties of the island. Basically, she's the conduit for all that. And I thought that they were going to like make her into like some weird god character or something, and they didn't go quite that far, but yeah, like her and Faraday's relationship and her and Desmond's relationship is really interesting
Yeah, I think
because she's the one who sets Desmond on his path to being like in tune with the island, basically.
yeah, she kind of feels like that bridge character where she's very important. She's very important to like the plot and to important players in the story.
Yeah, and in a better show, she would be S tier.
Yeah, she definitely got. She kind of like she. They do enough with her character that she can fulfill what she needs to do, but they don't really give her a lot of flair. I feel.
Yeah, and she's introduced so late that And since she's like not on the island, it's tough for her to be a recurring character.
Yeah, because by the time she's in the show, they're trying to get to the end.
Yeah. So what do you feel? I definitely between okay and good. Like she's a good character that doesn't do enough, so could go in okay as well. I don't know.
I feel like okay, like
Okay, I'll agree with that.
yeah, because she just doesn't. I don't know, like I don't feel strongly about her at all. Kind of
No,
like with the Jack's dad, where I'm
yeah.
just like, no, she's important. Like she she has a thing to do, but outside of that, I'm like, yeah, she's fine.
Okay, we talked about characters who don't quite fulfill their potential. I feel like Hurley is the first example of this. So
Yeah,
there, the first season for me is a very huge roller coaster ride of pretty high highs and pretty low lows. Like the beginning, the first few episodes of that show are really great and really set up a lot of interesting stuff. And then you get into this murky middle of a bunch of like really mediocre backstories of just characters who don't matter and their backstories are really bad.
yeah,
And it was the whole middle part of the first season is pretty bad. And then towards the end of the first season, you get Hurley's backstory, which is just this amazing episode that talks about like really important stuff like the numbers and all that stuff.
yeah,
And I was just like, why did they wait so long to get to Hurley? Because like Hurley is a great character.
yeah. This is hard for me because like Hurley's like my spirit animal. Like I love Hurley.
Yeah, how can you not?
I think like that episode, that first episode, like backstory episode with the numbers and like him becoming rich from
It's so good.
like it's like a really fantastic
It's
episode.
one of my favorites from the first season.
And that said, like I feel like some of the Hurley backstory later on,
Yeah, that is where
it,
they falter.
where it's just like
They don't know what
I
to do
love her.
with him.
I love Hurley as a character. I just think his his path and his plot line is like very murky. It's like occasionally it's really great, and other times it's like man, they're just
And after that
they don't know what to do.
after that first season, they don't really know what to do with him. And they get into like they lean harder into like the fact that he was in the psych ward and he's crazy and all that stuff is really bad and like the writers kind of let down his character a lot.
That yeah, that arc is really terrible.
Yeah. And then
I was
yeah, there's the whole thing of like the character he like invented in his mind or whatever. And
yeah,
yeah,
also bad.
yeah, it's not very good.
It bums me out. Like in my heart, Hurley is S tier.
Yes. But so this is tough, like, because like as a character he is S tier, but as he is written, he's only in the
Yeah,
good tier. So
yeah, I think that's perfect. Like as a character, like he's S tier, but his story is good,
yeah,
kind of
the
like
writers definitely let him down. It's a shame.
yeah.
Still,
We'll be saying that a lot.
yeah, but yeah, the that first episode of Hurley though is so good. It like renewed my faith in Lost for a
Might be
time.
one of the like, I think that'll be like maybe top five Lost episodes.
Yeah, there. I mean, there's a lot of episodes and a lot of good ones, I would say, and that was
Yeah.
one of them.
And
And just
now,
like that, we're back into the who cares tier with Alana, who is introduced in season 5. She like meets Saeed off the island and brings him back to the island, and then is kind of a character on the island, but not really.
I was she the one who she was like she's like a disciple of the
Yeah, of Jacob.
Jacob. I kind of remember she just like she gets killed like in a
She gets blown up. She gets arsed.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah, I almost want to say bad, but
I mean, she's not enough of a character to be in bad tier. I'm
yeah,
sorry to
you're right.
say.
Like she does have like she fulfills a purpose and she gets blown up.
Yeah, and
That kind of
we've mentioned Arse twice, so I do have to tell everyone about the Arse story, which is one of my favorite things that happened in season 1, where it's the season finale, and Arzt, ARZT, which is just this
Yeah,
random character who no one cares about,
I care
is
about him.
like they're bringing a bunch of dynamite back from the ship, and like he gives everyone the spiel about how dynamite is really dangerous, how you have to handle it with care, and just randomly in the middle of his explanation, he just blows up, and it is one of the funniest moments in Lost.
Yeah, it's like completely like shocking. Like
Yeah, out
you're
of
not
left field, and
you're not expecting it.
it's amazing.
It's a little bit of comeuppance because his character's kind of a smart ass. He thinks he's so smart, and then he just like he's like showing everyone how smart he is, and he gets blown up. It's perfect.
Yeah,
He's
so
like a little bit more of a character though, because he comes later. Like he's he gets backstory. And isn't he in the Flash Sideways?
I
Like
don't remember, sadly.
because I
I
think
th-
like in the Flash
I think he
Sideways, it's
makes a
like what
cameo or
happened.
something, and we're like, hey, there he is.
There he is in One Piece.
Yep. But anyway, back to Alana. I think she goes in who cares?
Yeah. Oh, okay,
we,
this next one.
she's so who cares that we talked about Arst more than her.
Well, ours is like S tier.
Yeah. All right, so Jack is a tough one because Jack is clearly terrible, and but like definitely not as terrible as like Claire or Ana Lucia.
Yeah. I think this might be where we have like the biggest disagreement.
Oh
Because
yeah.
I like Jack.
Hmm.
Like he's terrible. Like he's a lot of things.
Yeah, he's one of
But
those. He's one of those characters who is a bad character, but he doesn't have any redeeming qualities really.
yeah, I feel like there's like these moments every season where you like he kind of like just emerges out of the bullshit of like the way he's written, where Jack has these moments that are like really profound in the show. Like he's around for like a lot of like the big emotional moments of the show, with like all of his backstory with his dad, and like even like in the last like the show ends with him,
Right. Yeah, he's
so
definitely
he's
one of
like
like the focal points
important.
of the story for sure. Like he probably has the most backstories out of anyone.
Yeah, like he's an important character, and I also feel like I feel like there's moments that I actually really enjoy
Oh yeah.
Jack. Like
Yeah, there are times where he's okay, but there's other times where he's just like yelly and irrational and bad. And
I
like
think like the big
a bad
mistake
leader for sure.
I think the big mistake they did was they just create this completely like boilerplate like science versus like spiritual belief with John Locke,
Yeah.
where they're just like pitted against each other, and it's very black and white.
Yeah.
It doesn't do either of them any favors.
Yeah, it's pretty hard to argue that the Locke versus Jack story arcs, multiple of those are all bad.
Yeah, and like I think they kind of didn't figure it out, but I think they started realizing like with Jack like with belief and like spiritual belief, it's kind of ends up being a thing that's really core to his character, where he doesn't believe in anything, and the island is trying to make him believe in it, and he doesn't, and then by the end he does it and he dies.
Yeah, it's yeah, they just go in so many directions with them that I would put him in bad tier is what I would do.
Hmm. I'm not even sure where I'll put him. I'm the most conflicted about Jack.
I mean, if you want to move him up, you obviously would have to move him up 2 tiers, which is pretty.
That's a pretty big jump. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like he's like all over the spectrum. Like sometimes he's really good, and other times he's fucking like I'm just like, oh my god,
eh,
shut the fuck up, Jack.
like a lot of people, he has some really bad backstories.
Yeah, yeah. I kind of feel that way. Where like a lot of his backstory is just not.
And it's just hey, he acts irrational. He had a wife but drove her away because he sucks.
Yeah, I think that's really it's like his backstory is one note. Like
Yeah.
it doesn't ever really
He
change.
himself is a one note character. He's just
He is. Oh
angry
yeah,
all the
for
time,
sure.
irrational, and chooses never he's never a man of faith, and that's all they do with him instead of a lot of other characters in the show that have at least a bit of range and who change at least a little bit.
Yeah.
And that's what
I
keeps
think I
him
do think he
from a
changed.
higher
I
tier.
think he by the last season I think he changes, but at that point it's like
Yeah, it's too
it's
late.
it's too late. So it's just like yeah, I would put him on okay, but uh, I don't know.
You're okay with we will come back to it later if you've changed your mind or
Yeah, like
yeah.
as we talk about other characters, I might start like being more in tune with how I feel about him all the way.
Yeah,
I think for now we just keep him bad.
we will come back to. Okay, can I? All right.
There
So
we go.
yeah, I feel like Sun and Jin. Do you feel like Sun and Jin go in the same tier? That is the first question I'll ask you.
Ye- yes,
I think so as well. And
because I think they're like kind of comparable
yeah,
quality.
there's definitely also a lot to talk about because they also get a lot of backstories, and it's really interesting because like originally their backstories are just like, oh, Sun's dad is like this bigwig exec of a Korean corporation, and uh, Jin marries into that family and gets like basically gets into organized crime and like has to do his son's dad's dirty work for him, and like they're basically trapped in this garbage situation, and you originally you're like, I don't really understand why this matters because they're never getting off the island. What does it matter? But then
Yeah,
eventually all that stuff comes back around and is a storyline again. And I think that's pretty interesting.
I yeah like we said about Jack like being one note. I think Jen like he has like an arc and what he is in the beginning versus what he is in the end,
It's totally different because
totally different.
in the beginning he's just like kind of like generic asshole.
Yeah, he's like overbearing. Like
And it's like, oh, button up your blouse, you
yeah,
hussy.
you're showing too much ankle.
But then yeah, eventually he learns to like be a caring person.
Yeah, and like you understand like why he is the way he is. It's one of those things where it's like when you see his backstory, you're like, okay, I feel for him. But even that said, like he definitely he puts in the work later on. Like he starts learning English. He becomes more of a character.
Yep.
And by the time like the arc is over, I'm like, this is a very good arc.
Yep. But and
It,
then
it ends like, at the perfect moment. It's kind of like right as it was like hitting the apex. It's just boom. That's the arc.
yep. And then they die on the sub trying to get off the island
Yeah, it's a
at
little
the
messed
end.
up.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like I'll put them in. For me, I think good.
Yeah,
I think they're
I
good
feel like they
characters.
could both go in good. And there's like really it gets a little lost in the middle seasons where there's kind of like a lot going on, unlike the weird episodes where you get the flash forwards and they're like separated but both off the island forever for whatever reason, and it's never really explained how like Jin gets off the island, but
Yeah, a lot
like
of the
they
flash forward stuff feels
yeah,
like
they
a lot
literally
of hand
don't
waving.
explain it, and
Yeah,
that is pretty dumb, but I'm willing to forgive that.
yeah. Because at that point, it's like the dark's done.
Yeah.
A lot of the flash forward stuff just feels kind of like fan fiction.
Yeah, and a lot of it kind of isn't as well thought through as it could be, but I wouldn't blame them for that.
Yeah. Oh man, this next character.
Yeah, okay. John Locke is so weird because you have to you have to consider the entirety of John Locke as a character,
Yeah,
because first four seasons of John Locke is the easiest S tier you've ever seen, but then it's just like, oh, we killed John Locke, we have to bring him back because everyone loves John Locke, and they kind of squandered that. Well, they didn't squander it, but they lessened it a little bit, and
yeah,
that's a bit of a shame.
yeah. It's like the thing we're talking about where he was an S tier character. He falls out of S tier, and but like the thing is, like man, his episode, like that episode with the hatch, like when he's banging on the hatch,
Yeah,
that is like an incredible moment in the show. Like
yeah,
it's just a great moment, like great episode. Like
I think
God, this episode is so good in the
like
beginning.
the John Locke episodes in the first two seasons are like a lot of the stuff that saves the first two seasons. Not a lot happens except
Yeah.
with John Locke, and that's basically it. Like, and I remember the first time I was invested in the show is the first John Locke episode where you get his introduction, you get his backstory, you get the fact that he was in a wheelchair, but now the island has allowed him to walk, and it's
Yeah.
just like it's a great moment.
I would say like I feel like John Locke of all the characters, he has like the most emotional moments of the
Oh,
show.
totally.
Where you're like, oh, I'm like getting a little teary eyed in this John Locke moment because you're like, man, he's just getting hosed
Yeah, he's a good
all
guy
the time.
that just gets screwed over time and time again, and his dad is like the worst jerk in all of history.
The other thing I do, the thing I really like about John Locke is there's like there's almost like this lie about his character. In the beginning, he's like hyper competent. He's like, oh, he's like an outdoorsman. He knows what he's doing. And then as it goes on, and you're like, oh no, John Locke's actually kind of an idiot.
Yeah,
He's a fake,
but
but
also
he tries so
but it's
hard.
not his fault. Also, it's the
No,
world
it's
is
not.
conspiring against him to see him fail.
Yeah, but I think that's what makes it interesting. It's just like you have this aspect, you have this idea of what he is. You find out that he's not really that, but at the same time, you still root for him just because he's just getting hosed the entire time.
Yep.
That you're like, yeah, you know what? He's not as smart as like everyone thinks he is. He's gullible. Like a lot of the stuff that happens early on, where just horrible things happens, are kind of his fault because he just like completely gullible and he believes things he shouldn't believe,
Yeah,
and he's like out of his element sometimes.
definitely.
And then later on, it's just like when he gets killed and he comes
Yeah,
back, it's
and then
just
he
bad.
they just choose to bring him back as like the smoke monster and the man in black, and it's just like, okay, this is John Locke, but it isn't really. Like, why even do this?
Yeah, that definitely knocks him down. Ah,
I would still put him in S tier.
wow.
What? So
I would put him in good
we
because like
are.
I would say yeah, he's S tier for like 3 or 4 seasons, and then
I would not deny that him in those last two seasons are pretty bad. And like
because like
even
here's the thing, like Ben Linus and Desmond are like they're good all the way through.
that is a great point. And just like even the Locke episode, like I remember there's the one Locke episode where they show like when he gets transported off the island and needs to like recruit his team to get back to the island. I was like, oh man, this episode is going to be so good, isn't it? And then they kind of squandered it a little bit, and I was a little disappointed considering like the episode afterwards is the like the Ben Linus episode where they all take the plane back to the island with Jack and stuff, and that is a good episode. And it really kind of puts it in perspective where the emphasis is in the show.
Yeah, I think by that point they were running out of room with him. They were just like his arc's done. What do we do?
I mean,
Yeah, I would say good. I don't.
it would probably be good for the engagement to stir a little controversy in there. You know how
That
this
is
works.
true.
You can't just go with the consensus picks the whole time. You gotta shake things up and
I
make
always
people
I always
post
wanted to
in the
put
comments.
I always wanted to put Jack in S tier just to like
No,
rile everyone.
I could never see that happen. I'm sorry to tell you.
Yeah, yeah,
But yeah,
yeah.
okay. I'm fine with this just for post in the comments if you disagree with us putting Locke in good tier instead of S tier.
There's gonna be another. I think there's gonna be another character who ends up in S tier that is gonna just be like, what? How?
Well, I don't even know who you mean, so we'll get there eventually.
Yeah.
All right. We have Juliet. Juliet is so weird because she is a good character that also does nothing, but is there for like half the show. Like,
Yeah,
like she, there's so much going on with her, but at the same time, she's just like, she just kind of doesn't do anything.
she's important to set up the background of like the others and what they're doing on the island and all the research and things like that. Like she's important for that. And like all the stuff with like the birth rate and all the kids and all that. I don't know. I feel like all that stuff kind of ended up being nothing.
Yeah, and
Would you agree?
yeah, there's the part I wanted to talk about is like in the heat of the other season, she goes to Jack's camp and they they set it all up as like, is she going to be loyal? Is she not going to be loyal? What is she going to do? She hates Ben, but maybe she is being forced by Ben to do stuff. And at the end of the episode, she's like in the camp and it's playing like the ominous Ben Linus music. And what's she going to do? And then the very next episode, she's just like, yeah, I'll help you guys, whatever. But and that's not. It's so disappointing. Like I thought it was going to be this big conflict, but it turned
Well,
out to be
they
nothing.
do it twice. Well, they do it like where they do it where like, oh, she's definitely betraying them, and then she's like, oh no, actually, I'm just gonna do it. But if I remember the episode correctly, then it ends where it's like, oh, actually, later on, it's like, oh, actually, I want you to pretend like you're gonna betray them, and then don't betray them, so that you can betray them later on.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm talking about. At the end of the
Yeah,
episode, it's Juliet and Ben Linus, and he's just like, "Oh, you're gonna sabotage him, right?" It's like, "Yeah, I'm gonna sabotage him." And then the next episode, she does not sabotage them at all.
yeah. I think
Like
that's like
it's so
the frustrating thing about her
uninteresting.
character.
Like
Yeah, like
like
I
I
think I
there's
didn't
a
like her at first.
I feel like there's a better way to have that conflict and eventually have her be good, but not like that.
I think it's just to create like drama on the show. That's why I didn't like her at first. Like the first season she's in, I'm not that crazy about her. But then when we get in the backstory and they're like in the other camp,
Yeah,
I think she becomes a much more interesting
and
character at that
I,
point.
I like her relationship with Sawyer. I think that stuff is well done.
Yeah, yeah, I think she's a good character. Like she's a good character who doesn't feel as consequential as you're like led to believe.
Yeah, like anytime she's in a scene, I don't feel like she's like affecting the outcome of that. She's always just kind of there for no reason, or for a reason, but she just doesn't do anything.
Yeah. Hmm.
And that's like I would almost be tempted to put her in Who Cares, but I personally I would just put her in She's Okay.
Yeah, I think I agree. Yeah, yeah, like
And then she eventually dies she dies at the end of season 5 at the beginning of season 6 where
she falls down the hall.
yeah, she falls down the well and sets off the nuke and is fine, but then she's not fine and she's dead.
She falls in a chasm.
She falls into a chasm.
I would say like I know there's like these are like pretty. She's okay plus. Like she's
Eh,
not good, but I think she's more interesting than like Jack's dad or
you would say she's more
Faraday's mom.
interesting than Eloise?
Well, she's just in the show more.
That
Like
is true. But
that's really what it
but
comes down to.
again, she doesn't do anything.
Yeah, yeah. Well, she hits the nuclear bomb in season 6 or whatever.
That is true.
Yeah, I think okay.
All right, we got another annoying character. I I feel like we're gonna agree that she just goes in bad and not complete trash. Kate.
Yeah, she has way too much screen time and like she's an important character in the show. I think just by that, like that saves her from being complete trash. But I
It's
definitely don't like
close.
her.
It's close.
Yeah, I do not like her character.
Yeah, no.
It's like she gives a bad impression and then she just continues to kind of just be bad.
And once again, her backstories are just awful.
Yeah, they kind of try to make it like they try to make you really care about like, oh, why is she like why was she like under arrest in the plane? Like, oh, was she hiding? And then you find out you're like, oh, okay,
Yeah,
that's actually not
and
that
like
interesting.
she's like on the run from the police, and it's like, oh, yeah, we were wondering about that. And then it turns out her dad is trash, so she just kills him. And then it's just like, oh, she goes to her mom and be like, I did the right thing. And then her mom, who is surprisingly worse than Kate, which is something I didn't think could happen, but she's just like, why would you do that? I love him. He's not great, but it works. And it's just like Kate's mom might be like my least favorite character out of everyone because she just makes literally no sense, and even she makes Kate seem like an okay character, which is kind of hilarious to me.
Yeah.
And yeah, just every backstory with her is bad. Like in we talked about like her killing her dad and stuff, but like there's a string of episodes in the middle of season one where it's like a Michael episode, a bad Michael episode, a bad Charlie episode, and a bad Kate episode, and like the Boone Shannon episode as well, where I was just losing my mind. Where it's
I'll
like
be honest with you. Those are the moments where like whenever we
you
were
don't
like
even remember.
we were setting up to watch, I would be like, maybe have like some stuff to do around the house. I can't
Yeah,
really
definitely.
watch.
And
Where I'm
like
just like, if I have to watch one more Kate episode.
yeah, the Kate episode where she robs a bank with some people and like pretends to be a hostage, but she's not really, and gets like beat up with a gun, and then they go to the back room and make out, and she's like, what are we doing? It's so bad. It's
Yeah,
so bad.
and then they try to redeem her. Well, then she gets custody of
Oh yeah, right, we need to talk about Aaron. And like
Aaron.
as because she takes Aaron onto the helicopter to get off the island because Claire is like MIA basically.
Yeah, I don't know. Do we ever find out where she went?
No, not really, I don't know. So she takes Aaron back to the US and like has to take care of him, and like that's okay, but like they they don't really do anything with that.
The Flash, like, is it? Yeah, like all the future stuff. I would say like most of it is not
Oh yeah, all
not
like
good.
there's a reason that they returned to the island is because they didn't have any positive momentum going there, and the fans were so up in arms about it and saying it was bad that they had to like go back on their word and go back to the island. Like it's pretty obvious to me that that's the situation that went down in that season.
Yeah, because it's like you go from a show like on the island where there's like all this mystery, and then you become basically like a generic CBS drama
Yeah, the off
where
the island stuff is just bad across the board, basically.
it's just like what are we doing here? Yeah, her character, not
Yeah, and just like her whole
not great.
personality of being on the run, and like the that's bad, and like her love triangle with Jack and Sawyer is really bad, and like she tries to be the voice of reason for everyone, and everyone else is just like, I'm not listening to you. No,
I want to listen to you. You're a liar.
you're the worst. Go away.
Yeah.
She does have one of my favorite lines in Lost is when she's kidnapped by Ben Linus, and they're like having a meal together, and she's like, "Why did you take me to this place? Why did you make me put on this dress? Why are you feeding me breakfast?"
Oh,
It's such a good line.
that's like in the research,
That's
like the underwater.
that's my second favorite line. My first favorite line is from John Locke, and when they're going to the others' encampment, and like they get to like the gate, the fence, and he kills like the random guy, and he says, "Pardon me for not knowing they had a sonic weapon fence."
Oh, that moment's great because that's just like it encapsulates like John Locke, where it's just like he does things like he's a go getter, but he doesn't fucking think about anything.
No, and he makes some dumb decisions sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, Kate, I think bad tier is a good place for her.
Oh man,
All right,
yeah.
looks like we have a string of inconsequential characters going
What
right
do you
here.
mean? He like Elon Musk. He like
Fake Elon Musk, Kimi,
Kiwi,
Kimi.
Kimi.
He is in Who Cares tier because he is the guy from season 4 who is on the freighter and gets sent to the island to just kill everyone, basically. And he
Yeah.
eventually dies. And he is also there in the Flash Sideways, and he has a good line of, I make a mean eggs. And he makes a
Oh
good, like,
yeah.
smarmy look. But yeah,
I kind of his character's bad, but I actually like I just like saying his name.
yeah, Kimi.
Kimi.
All right, and now we have Libby, who also doesn't matter at all. She is
Uh
Hurley's love interest for
oh
the
yes.
she's in the back of the plane. She's in the second season. Yeah. And she gets shot by Michael as well.
She gets fridged so that Hurley can have a character moment.
Yep. And she is also like in the psych ward and all that stuff is really poorly handled. And there's another like thing that they don't like account for really that they don't make good on. It's like there's an end of episode stinger where she's in the psych ward with Hurley and they don't do anything with that.
Yeah, all the psych ward stuff is bad.
All right. So Frank, the pilot of the helicopter from the freighter. So
Yeah.
his sole purpose, he is occasionally in scenes, and he will be the guy who ends a scene with a quippy one-liner, and that's his whole purpose.
Yeah.
And therefore, I think he is better than most of the characters in
I,
the
I was
show.
gonna say, I was gonna say, look, you didn't say anything bad about him. You said like he makes one-liners and he makes a stupid face of like confusion
Yeah,
a lot.
he is okay in my book.
Yeah, he's fine, and he gets everyone off the island.
All right, we have arrived to the Man in Black. So I
Uh,
don't even know what to do with this
I don't
because
even
like
like.
at least Jacob is a character. The Man in Black is not a character.
I'm like, what happened with the Man in Black?
I mean, he's the evil guy who is evil for no reason, and he wants to get off the island to do question mark question mark question mark, and
Yeah.
in order to get off the island, he has to kill Jacob. And why? Question mark question mark question mark.
Uh, I, I'm like struggling to even say anything about him.
Yep, there's nothing to say.
He's just like all the stuff with the like the origin story of the island is
Yeah, they had
not interesting to
they
me.
had potential there. They did not capitalize it at all. And yeah,
Oh
they one of like I'm not sure if it was the second to last or the third to last episode. It's like the big reveal episode about the origins of the island, and it is really bad. Nothing happens in it, and it's
yeah,
just like they they're a lady has twins on the island, like the Allison Janney, Jacob's their parents is like already on the island, and she just like kills this random woman that has twins, and then she raises Jacob and the Man in Black as her own child, teaches them the ways of the island and like the secrets of the island, and then one is like the good guy who wants to protect the island, and the other is just like F the island. That's the Man in Black, and then I don't know.
yeah, yeah. I had
Jacob
something to. I
Jacob
don't know.
kills the Man in Black who killed her mom and whatever. I don't know.
Is people complain a lot about like, oh, they don't explain enough towards the end of the show, and I'm like, I wish this is one of the things they didn't explain was the origin story of the island because I did not care.
I mean, there also part of the story of the island is the season 5 season finale, which is a bad episode where it just like starts with the Jacob and the Man in Black on the island, and it's just like, people are gonna come to this island again, and you keep saying you're gonna find someone who is worthy of protecting the island, but I don't believe you. And he's like, oh, they come, they destroy, they corrupt. It's always the same. And then Jacob's like, I don't think so, but it's really bad. And yeah, the Men in Black's motivations for hating everyone is just like unclear the whole time.
Well, I mean, it's like the whole thing is supposed to be like, oh, one of them is God, one of them is the devil. Like
Yeah,
he's
the
just
light
bad.
and
He just
dark, basically.
yeah, he's just bad for bad's sake.
Yeah, he took John Locke out of S tier. He must pay.
Yeah, you know what? Fuck him. Like yeah, it's complete trash. He might have some company in
Hey,
a second.
speaking of which,
Speaking of,
so there are times in this show where, or in this tier list, where you can convince me to put someone in another tier. There is absolutely no way that you can say absolutely anything positive about Michael to put him in a tier other than complete trash. Michael is secretly the worst character in this show. He is awful. He has no redeeming qualities. His personality is terrible.
yeah,
The
he
thing I say about him is if he was in a Telltale game and he was a playable character, anytime you got to a dialogue choice, all four of the dialogue options would just say, my son. That is the
my
only thing he ever says. That is his only response to anything is like, oh, we need to go do this. We need to go help these people. And he would just say, my son. And
I like that he
that's his
says,
whole response.
"Whoa,
Like that's
whoa."
all he cared that that's all he cares about. That's all he wants to do. And he's not even a good father. Like
No, he's pretty terrible. I mean, he's like, God, he gets people killed. Doesn't he kill someone in Cold Blood out of like pettiness?
yeah, everything about him is just so bad.
Yeah. Whatever happens, does he blow up? Doesn't he blow up
No.
on a boat or something?
Okay, so in the Hatch season at the end, he kills Ana Lucia, he accidentally kills Libby, and then he lets Ben Linus go and shoots himself and pretends that Ben took his gun and escaped, which is hilarious and terrible.
Yeah,
And
that's actually pretty
then
funny.
he he gets set free at the end by Ben. It's like you and Walt can go home, and then he gets roped back in by like the others on the island and gets roped back onto working for the freighter to try and like redeem himself. And then he blows up on the freighter when the freighter blows up.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like committing murder and betrayal like can be undone by like working a 40-hour week
I
on
mean,
a freighter.
he wanted to redeem himself, but obviously when he got back to the US, he tried to kill himself. But once you get in, you can't get back out no matter what happens.
Yeah,
So, yeah, he was forced to try and atone for his sins before he could be set free.
Michael sucks.
Yeah, he's
He's so much.
like, and his whole initial backstory with his kid and like his mom who who stop me if you heard this one random backstory character is surprisingly poorly written. And she's just like, no, I can't take care of my son, you do it.
Yeah, she kind of like she does that, and then she kind of like she's out of the show.
Because
That's
she
it.
dies randomly.
Oh yeah, oh yeah,
You
she dies. I
forgot
forgot
about
about that.
that. How she just randomly dies for no reason.
Yeah, that didn't really stay in my brain for whatever reason. Yeah, I can't. I'm not gonna convince you. The only thing I will convince you of is putting him on an even lower tier than complete trash.
I
But
I don't know how many other people think he is the worst character in Lost, but I think he's the worst character in Lost.
I feel like it's him or Charlie. People really just hate.
Yeah, people definitely hate Charlie more than Michael, but hey, guess what? Michael is secretly the worst
Michael's
character.
worse.
Yeah, easily. Easily.
Easily worse.
All right, so Miles is one of the freighter dudes, and
Yep.
he is secretly the son of Dharma Man.
Oh, the
Uh,
hippie guy.
yeah, like it's weird. He has a lot of names. Like in the Dharma introduction videos, he constantly has a different name, so I don't know exactly what to call him. All I know is that he's like the CEO of Dharma, basically, the Dharma Initiative.
Mr. Dharma.
I kept forgetting I kept calling it the Dharma Corporation, but it's the Dharma Initiative.
No, it's a startup.
Yeah, and he's his son, and he at least Miles has like a hook to him. He's like in touch with like dead spirits and stuff. So
Yeah, I actually find Miles very pretty amusing as a character.
yeah, he is also pretty quippy. So I
He
think
brings like levity to the show.
yeah, and yeah,
Like his how does he He gets out done, doesn't he, or does he die? I don't remember.
I think he lives. I think him and uh
Frank.
Frank live. They get on the plane at the end.
Yeah, his character's fine. Like he's fine.
Yeah.
He's a fun character. I think okay, it's like
Yeah, I
yeah.
think okay works for them. Okay, so thankfully, due to alphabetics,
Oh,
Nikki and Paulo are together. So I know what you're thinking. They are they are easily in Who Cares, but can I posit a theory to you that they are such Who Cares characters that they transcend the Who Cares tier and go into bad tier instead?
I think you're just saying that because you only have one more slot for who cares.
No, we can make this a second row of Who Cares characters if we so choose. That is a thing that
Yeah,
we can do. However, I think Nikki and Paulo are so bad that they go in bad tier.
it's funny they're bad, but that episode where they die is very amusing.
It is amusing. I will give
It's
you
just
that.
it's like the perfect where like oh the writers know no
They
one
knew.
likes them.
They knew.
They're like all right we're gonna give you what you want. We're gonna give you a fun episode where they like die in the most hilarious way
And they
possible.
did it immediately. They didn't even like wait like a season or so and try and like redeem them. They're just like, you know what? We got nothing. Let's just do away with them forever.
Yeah, I would say like yeah I'll say bad. I like that episode, but yeah, I mean they're so bad that they just get killed off.
Yeah.
Like in the same season they're introduced.
Yeah, and I feel like they aren't even worth talking about. We could just put them in bad and move on because whatever.
Yeah.
All right.
Penny.
So we both saw this image and both said, "Who is this character?" And then
That
we
image is
eventually
hilarious.
realized it's Penny. That is such a bad image
This is
of
like a
Penny.
stock image.
There are so many better photos of her that you could have had, but whatever. So
Penny.
I feel like Penny just goes in the who cares tier because she's just a conduit for Desmond, basically. Like she
Yeah,
doesn't
she's just
really do
kind of
anything.
there. She's almost like a MacGuffin for Desmond.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. She's not annoying. She's just there.
Yeah.
Like I don't dislike her really. It's just that she doesn't have any like
Character traits or anything going for her,
yeah,
really.
she has like
Yeah.
no
If
self motivation for anything.
like if something was going on with her in the Desmond episodes, like the the thing she has the most going on for her is she's the son of Charles Widmore. So like there's the whole dynamic of uh Charles Widmore wanting to do ill things to Ben's family and Ben like reciprocating the favor and wanting to kill Penny. And that's like
Yeah,
that's
and
a
him
sub story.
trying to use Desmond for his own gain, and also like he doesn't want him to be with Penny.
Yeah, exactly. So there's that, but other than that, there's not much going on with Penny, I would say.
Yeah, I don't really have much more to say about Penny.
And I feel like I don't have a lot to say about Alex either. Alex is Danielle's daughter and
No,
is
it's like
basically just like a plot device.
she she's a catalyst for like Ben Linus kind of going through a personal upheaval.
Yeah, and it's the way that she's most interesting is like related to Ben because like Ben views Alex as his daughter basically and kind of does everything in his power to protect her, but ultimately he kind of shows his like ultimate foible of letting her be killed in order to try and advance his gains, and then he eventually has like a change of heart and feels bad about it, which is pretty interesting. But like the character
Oh yeah, he like
herself,
totally lets her die. I forgot about
yeah,
that.
and like there's the whole episode of like the Ben Linus episode later in season 5 where he has to like atone for getting her killed, and like he gets like enveloped by the smoke monster, and there's the whole cool scene where he sees like flashbacks of their entire life together, and where he like takes her and then she's like, "Oh, Charles Widmore is dangerous. Could he be more dangerous than you?" And then it's like all the scenes where they were together and realizing that he eventually got her killed and has to feel bad about it. I thought that was cool, but that has nothing to
Yeah,
do with Alex really.
no,
It's more Ben than Alex.
she's like in a relationship with some guy,
Carl,
some other.
Carl. You have
Is he on
forgotten
it?
Carl? You have forgotten the
Is he on?
greatness of Carl?
Where is he? I don't see his picture anywhere.
Oh, they
Good
must
thing you
have
forgot so
forgotten
much.
Carl.
Yeah, wow.
Carl and Arst. Where were you?
Yeah, where are you guys? Yeah, yeah, she's who cares? I was like, I have no strong feelings about her.
All right. But I do think Danielle Rousseau is like an actual character.
Yeah, she
I think I think her actress is like a pretty okay portrayal of like a crazy person.
yeah, I think she kind of like she's part of like the initial island mystery where we're still not sure what the island is, and you meet her character, and then it's like even more questions of, oh wait, there were people who were on this island before.
Yeah. And you get like a small amount of backstory with her of how she got to the island, but it's not a lot.
No, no,
And,
she kind of
and like her rescue team, and she had to kill them all because they were infected. And maybe she's crazy. Maybe she was always crazy, or maybe she's just crazy now. Who knows?
yeah. Oh, she's definitely crazy.
She's definitely crazy.
Yeah, I think she's okay.
Yeah, I would say that. Okay, so now we have to talk about Jacob. So there are two parts to Jacob. The part of Jacob in theory, like in concept, and then there's the actual physical form of Jacob that is does not live up to like the head canon of Jacob that you have in your head.
Yeah,
Because the way they set up Jacob is really interesting. And then he's around, then he shows up, he's around for 2 seconds and dies immediately, which is not what you want.
no, that is honestly, I do think it's kind of interesting that the headcanon of Jacob as he's like this all-knowing being uh, of good, and then you meet him, and
And he gets stabbed immediately and dies.
he gets well, he you find out like he wanted to get staffed, but did he, or I don't remember.
I mean, not really, but
He seemed like he was kind of cool with it.
yeah, he has to let the candidates of the island make their own choice, and that's it.
But yeah, he kind of gives off like this negligent father vibes where it's like, I'm just gonna let whatever happens happens, and
I mean, it's not said explicitly, but I'm guessing that's like the rules of the island where they can't manipulate the people. They have to make their and that's kind of like his own that's his philosophy, right? Is like the candidates of the island have to make their own choice. We can't force them to be the
yeah,
protectors of the island.
if they're gonna be good, like they're gonna be it of their own volition.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, Jacob's kind of hard because like he's part of the whole backstory of the island that I really don't care that much about.
Right.
But obviously, like central to the entire mystery of the island. So in my mind, I'm like, yeah, he's important. He's very important, but
Yeah, I kind of feel like they should have almost just kept him as like a character you never see and just like have like in your head basically. But then once he shows up for real, I kind of say who cares?
yeah, when he's just like kind of like they see him like a shadow of him in a chair in that abandoned building. That stuff was interesting, and then when he appears,
It's like, oh,
it's just
and by the way, that was nothing.
yeah, it's just like, oh yeah, he looks like a generic white dude.
Yeah, yeah. And then there's like we'll talk about the season 5 finale again, which is really bad, which is just Jacob showing up in everyone's life and like kind of doing nothing. Where it's like he shows up at Sawyer's mom and dad's funeral and talks to Sawyer. And it's like, well, have this pen, and it's like, okay, why why are these scenes even happening? They're not. Nothing is going on.
Yeah. So many who care characters.
You know it. If we combine this with the OK tier, it would be like half the list.
Yeah, it would just be like everything.
All right, so we have
Uh,
Tom.
Duck Dynasty.
Tom slightly transcends the who cares tier and is okay.
Why
Because
didn't you like pick Tom with a beard?
that is true. They should have picked Tom with a beard. He
That's
is
like two different characters.
he's basically Ben Linus's right hand man in the others. And he shows up from time to time and is okay.
Yeah, he's fine.
My favorite scene with him is off the island, he meets Michael, and he's like living in his bachelor pad and like with his boyfriend, and it's just like, well, when I'm off the island, I like to indulge myself, and he's just like making out with him with like a glass of wine in his hand. It was pretty good.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, that might be the best moment of Tom.
Yes.
And I forgot what happens to him. I think he just gets shot or
Mm,
something.
no, oh, he maybe gets shot. I don't remember in that episode. It doesn't matter.
No, it doesn't.
Okay, I am realizing something now. Uh,
Oh,
in order for this to be a proper YouTube video, I need to go to this and I need to add a row above and I need to rename this, put it blue, and add a new tier called the Vincent tier. And we need to put Vincent in Vincent tier because I'm not a crazy person and will choose to be a normal person and put him in Vincent tier.
I
It,
was gonna say
above
he should
everyone
be.
else.
I should say he should be S tier.
No, he gets his own tier because he's a good boy, and
He is
I
a good
will
boy.
acknowledge that and put him in his own tier.
I mean, he is in the beginning of the show and he's in the end of the show.
Yeah,
He
he
is the beginning and the
survives.
end.
He does not get shot.
No, I'm like I was waiting for him to like
Yeah. Oh
get got
yeah,
at some point.
it was very scary for a time there, but he lives and he's amazing.
Vincent's so much depth to his character. I love his entire arc.
Yeah, his backstory was really interesting.
Yeah. Okay. So Vincent,
Yeah,
good job.
Vincent
Good
in
boy.
Vincent tier. You did it. All right, Charles Widmore.
Oh man, this gets hard.
Because once again, he does nothing. You would think the main antagonist of the whole show would do something, but no.
No, I think what was more interesting about Charles Whitmore is it's kind of like the mystery before you meet him, where it's like, oh, who's the person doing all the stuff in the background, like trying to get into the island, and you find out it's him, and then say, oh, okay, maybe he's gonna be a really interesting character, and it's like, nope, he's not.
And you think like the conflict between him and Ben is going to turn out to be interesting, but at, at towards the end, Ben just kind of shoots him and is like, "No, you're dead."
Yeah, he doesn't get enough screen time to be like a true antagonist to Ben.
Yep. Uh, It is a shame that he does nothing, but hey, that's what you get when you watch Lost. Nothing.
Yeah, nothing.
Speaking of characters that you don't get a lot from, Richard.
Richard,
You would really think that like one of the most seemingly important characters of the show would get more screen time and more backstory, but no, you don't get enough with him.
no, I'm kind of like I'm okay with Richard, but he's definitely not.
Yeah,
He's not as important as like Dara around him.
yeah, and like a lot of like so I think the best season of Lost is the third season with the others, and
Yeah,
like Richard gets a lot of screen time there, and you he's pretty good there, but then you're like, oh, later on in the show he's going to be a big character and we're going to get to know him better and like know all about how he got here and stuff, but then you eventually know how he got here and it's just kind of uninteresting where he just kind of crash landed on a ship with other people and was I barely even remember like Jacob and the Man in Black found
his
him.
wife is sick, or he crash lands on this island,
Yeah, and
and then his wife is sick, and he goes to get medicine. Or is that another character?
no, that is.
He goes to get medicine, and then she dies, and I don't know.
Yeah, and then he goes to the
I,
island and like I guess is working for Jacob, but it's kind of unclear. I don't know.
he's kind of like, yeah, he's like a right hand man. He does all like he's a logistics man. He lets him know like, oh yeah, you need to do this if you want to get this done.
And then he works with Ben to become
Ben
one of the
and
others.
Ben and
Tom
yeah,
and Eye Patch guy.
eye patch guy. I think he's like eh, who cares? I don't know.
Yeah, we'll
I'm
put him
like
in there, even though he shouldn't be, even though he should be a real character. They didn't do it with Richard. You,
No, another failure.
well, maybe he can go off the island and get in and become a lawyer. Maybe he's good at
Yeah,
that.
oh, I bet it would be.
Yeah, yeah. The whole time we saw him, we called him Law and Order Man, which is which I
Oh
think
yeah,
is pretty funny.
yeah.
Uh,
Ah, Richard.
okay, we have 5 characters left. I'm slightly running out of energy. Rose is okay.
Yeah, she's fine.
She is slightly better than Bernard, has slightly more going on. Like, she believes in the holistic powers of the island that cured her cancer, and that's pretty interesting. And, like, the first season interactions with her are interesting. She's just kind of chilling by herself on the beach and thinking about life and stuff.
I think
And
that's like what her interactions with Jack
yeah,
on the, are some of the better interactions that happened in that first season when they're just kind of like talking on the island,
agreed.
and then she decides to live with what's his face, so
Bernard, yeah.
Bernard at the
In,
end of the
like,
season,
yeah,
end of the show.
at the center of the island or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, she's fine. Like she's she's kind of there.
Yep, she's okay. All right. So
Oh
we're
yeah,
getting back into real characters again because we have
yeah,
Sawyer. Sawyer is definitely a good character.
yeah. I don't think he quite gets to that tier. Sawyer is just like such a energetic character that
Yes,
he just adds so much energy to the show.
yes, and is another really interesting story to come out of the show is that he has a very famous audition for the show where uh, he went to the audition and actually like he had a really bad audition and like forgot his lines and stuff and started acting and like acted up out of character in the audition, and the writers loved it so much. It's just like, what if we made that the character of Sawyer instead of the one that we wrote, and that's how we got the Sawyer that we know. So
Yeah,
I thought that was a really interesting story, and it I think Josh Holloway is a pretty good actor, and they just kind of lucked into it, I guess, which is interesting. See,
yeah.
it seems like they did that a lot with the characters of the show. Just
I would
kind
say
of,
like a lot of the stuff like a lot of the things that came out of that show that were good were just like happy little accidents.
yeah, totally. I would agree with that.
And and Sawyer's character, he's in my mind, he's like what what's her face the I can't remember her name. I forgot her name. The
Juliet,
one who no, not Juliet. Uh,
you gotta,
Jack's love interest, the other one.
Jet, Kate?
Kate, yeah, I forgot Kate. That's how I feel about Kate.
Wow.
He's like if Kate was good, where he's like he's an outlaw. He's not really a good person. He's kind of like he's kind of roguish.
Yeah.
Like he kind of has good intentions sometimes, but he's definitely out for himself for most of the show.
Yeah, but also over the course of the show, he's one of the few that experiences like some form of growth.
Yeah, yeah,
And yeah, I like a lot of his backstories. His con backstories are pretty interesting, I would say.
yeah. I think if he had a little bit more, he might rise up. But there's just like there's enough there, and all the stuff that there all of his backstory is like it's interesting, but it's not like exceptional.
Yeah, another episode I wanted to talk about is in season 3, which I think is again the most interesting season, where Sawyer Sawyer and Locke have like a interconnection of their characters where uh Locke's dad, the jerk that we talked about earlier, is the one that slept and conned Sawyer's parents, which caused them to kill themselves. So
Yeah,
both Locke and Sawyer hate Anthony Cooper is his name. So Locke tricks Sawyer into killing his dad,
killing his
basically.
dad.
And I thought that episode was also a really good episode because it was kind of like an intersection of two interesting characters. And to go back to Locke for a brief second, I really thought it was going to be like the jumping off point of Locke, where it's just like, oh, I'm going to be, I'm not in Locke's camp anymore, and I'm not in Jack's camp anymore, and I'm not in the other's camp anymore. I'm kind of like my own entity. I'm like this agent of chaos who kind of does what he wants and figures out like the secrets of the island all by myself. But
Yeah.
then like that was towards the end of the third season, and then at the very beginning of the fourth season, they just went right back to Locke versus Jack, and I hated it. So,
Yeah. That moment you're talking about is interesting because obviously John didn't have like the guts to go through with it.
but Sawyer did.
Where Sawyer like one like that's the thing that's interesting about Sawyer is like Sawyer does a lot of bad things, and he
But
don't-
he's one of the few people in the show that has actual ambition and is willing to like act on it.
oh yeah, for sure. Like that's what I mean is like John didn't have the guts. Sawyer just killed him. He's just like, oh, I'm doing it. Like this is what I wanted. This is what I've been like after this entire time.
And another interesting thing in season five, like I've talked about how Locke versus Jack sucks, but in season five they had like Sawyer versus Jack, and I thought that was like a really interesting interaction because one of Sawyer's best lines is just like he is in charge of basically in charge of the Dharma Initiative in 1977 in season five, and he's like Jack has to defer to him, and he's just like, and oftentimes Sawyer would do something, and Jack would be like, "Oh, that's an interesting choice you made," and he's just like, "Well, unlike you, I like to think before I do things." And I thought that was like a really interesting line and a well-written line that kind of paints his depiction of an interesting depiction of Sawyer of being a person who can actually like be considerate and think things through, which I thought was cool. So yeah, that's definitely how I feel about Sawyer. He's generally really good, and I like what they did with him, and there aren't like a whole lot of situations where I was soured on Sawyer, I would say.
No, I'll say like all of it, like all of it iterations of his character, I thought were good. Like 1977 Sawyer. Of all the characters there, I thought he might be one of the best ones
Yeah,
because
definitely.
you saw aspects of his character like oh he's actually he thinks a lot more than you think he does. He's like he's actually kind of clever. He's smart. Like he's thoughtful. He's not
Yeah,
just like
yeah.
some
He's thoughtful. He's not just clever. He can think of something that like he can work in a group and accomplish things as a group, not just being selfish, which
oh
is
yeah
interesting.
and when shit starts going bad, he's the one who's figuring everything out on the fly.
Yeah, that that stuff in season five was interesting.
So yeah, I think that's a character like Sawyer is really great. Like he just adds so much dynamics to all the interactions between the
Yeah,
characters.
he's one of the best written characters of the show. Like
Yeah,
his character, because like we talk about like Desmond's like it's the story of Desmond that I care about, as opposed to something like Ben and Sawyer. Those are the characters that I care about.
yeah. It's like Sawyer's like his storyline is fine, but I think as a character, he's kind of Hurley, where like Hurley as a character, I just love him so much, but his entire
His story is bad.
story is not great.
Yeah. And okay, so we talked about characters that don't live up to their potential. There
Yeah,
is no character that the writers wasted more than Saeed.
man, his character in the last two seasons,
Yeah, Saeed is so good, they do absolutely nothing with him. It's so bad.
like he literally does nothing. Like
Yeah,
he just sits there and does nothing because he's I don't know like he got like infected or something
yeah.
with the smoke monster.
Yeah, we don't like I'm hesitant to even talk about like his season 6 stuff because he's such a non-character in season 6. Like,
He's
just nothing
he,
happens with him.
he's like a robot.
Yeah. And like I think the more interesting stuff is like the stuff that when he gets off the island and like gets then starts working for Ben and like meets his lover again and marries her, but then like absolutely nothing happens with his significant other. She just dies randomly for no reason and like for no reason. Like I don't understand.
I feel like
So,
she's kind of died just to give him another reason to be even more like to sulk even more.
but I am not letting the writers take Saeed away from me. We're putting him in good even though like the writers don't want me to do this with
They
how
don't
they
want you
wrote
to
him.
do this. No, like
Cause like the all his whole arc with working for Ben just makes no sense. And
no, not really.
yeah, it's so bad.
Well, all the stuff off the island, there's like this interconnectedness to it that it's just like, oh well, we have all these actors, like they all have to be intertwined, even if it doesn't really make any sense.
And we didn't really talk about all the off the island stuff, but just know that it's just really bad and it doesn't take advantage of any of the character's strengths whatsoever. And that's kind of what we're doing here is we're talking more about characters than we are about story. And yeah,
Yeah,
the off
because
the island stuff is just not good.
all that stuff just kind of felt like they were they were kind of like they were trying to figure out what to do, and they're like, we'll write this little storyline off the island while we figure out what the fuck we're gonna do to get them back on the island because we really messed up. Wow, two more S tier
Two
characters coming
characters
up.
left, and I'm very glad to say we have one last character in complete trash.
Yeah,
Shannon is just really bad.
she is terrible. She's like vain.
Yeah, conceited,
She's
self-absorbed,
self-absorbed. Like everything. Like yeah, she doesn't do anything.
typical like valley girl attitude basically.
Yeah, and I don't remember what happens to her.
She gets shot by Ana Lucia accidentally in the middle of season 2 and dies randomly.
Oh yeah. Wow. Nice work, Ana Lucia.
Yeah,
One trash character
yeah,
killing another trash
the
character.
one good thing that Ana Lucia did in the whole show.
Yeah,
And
there's
oh,
nothing. There's nothing to her. There's like
there's no,
nothing
yeah,
like to say about her.
yeah, she's irredeemable, but also kind of irrelevant, so not as bad as like a Claire or a Michael.
It's one of those things that makes me a little upset that they even spent time on her characters. I'm
Yep,
like, you could have spent this time fleshing out anyone else instead you're wasting on this character who is not even important to anything happening.
I think it's Shannon is so bad that by comparison, Boone gets into bad tier.
Yeah, I feel like Boone just he gets fucked over by Shannon the entire way. Like she's ruining his life. She gets him killed, kind of,
Yeah, yeah, she's just bad.
and she got him on her bad list.
Mhm. All
And
right,
now
I, and now the character Walt, which you like to call him Will, which I thought was funny.
Will,
Will,
I can't. Well, that just speaks to how much of a non-character he
yeah, how
is.
much of who cares?
Yeah, like I would say, like I was gonna argue for bad, but I'm like, no, like he's not enough of a character to be bad.
Agreed.
I do like that he just kind of randomly appears as like a teenager, where it's like oh we need to bring him back, and like the actor had clearly grown like
Aged,
3
yeah,
inches, and it's like oh hello I'm still 14, I've grown
and
5 inches.
they had to have the conceit of like the island time is different from real time because we have this child actor that ages.
Yeah, that's why he looks like he's like 17 all of a sudden.
uh,
But yeah, like yeah, we meet him again when back home, and yep, he's a teenager, and who's taking care of it? It was his grandma or something, right?
I don't even remember.
It doesn't matter. It's
Yeah,
like
it definitely doesn't matter. All right,
wow.
so this is our tier list of characters in Lost. Are there any changes you would like to make to it? I
Mm,
think it looks pretty okay.
I still want to bump up Jack.
Okay, I don't think that's happening. So, the last order of business is we can where if I hit
If you
save. Okay, whatever. And then if we go back to the normal view, we can view the community rank
oh,
of
actually, I
how
never.
this happened. So,
I
I have not seen this. I am really interested to know
I
what
bet
the.
Jack's S tier
All right,
on
let's
community
go.
ranks.
So, what?
Wait, what?
Who is this? Who did what?
Look, Charlie S tier. I always knew it.
What?
Oh
Where?
my god.
Who is it?
Let's ignore these ads on the side, by the way.
Oh God. What? Okay, we're done. I'm hitting stop on this.
Your YouTube channel might get deleted.
Thanks. Thanks, buddy. All right.
Thanks.
Thanks for joining me, everybody. We might do this again in the future if this video does numbers, but it probably won't. So whatever.
No.
We'll see you later.
Michael's tier C.
You suck, Michael. See you later.